pretend to be my wife?" a rich cowboy demanded, but one kiss broke his only rule. Ethan Cole had spent most of his life believing that land was the only thing that never lied. People changed, promises broke, but the wide fields of his ranch stayed loyal. Every morning he rode his horse across the open land, checking fences, cattle, and water lines, just as his father had taught him years ago. To the outside world, Ethan was a rich cowboy with everything: money, respect, power. But inside, he was a man who preferred silence over conversations and work over emotions. The Cole Ranch had been in his family for 3 generations. His grandfather built it from nothing, his father expanded it, and now Ethan ran it alone. His parents were gone, and he had no siblings. The ranch was his responsibility and his identity. That was why the letter from the family lawyer shook him more than any storm ever had. The letter was short but heavy. According to a condition written long ago in his grandfather's will, the main ownership of the ranch would only remain fully under Ethan's control if he was married before his 35th birthday. Otherwise, parts of the land would be transferred to distant relatives who had never stepped foot on the ranch and only cared about selling it piece by piece. Ethan read the letter twice, then a third time, hoping he had misunderstood. Marriage was never part of his plan. Love felt risky, unpredictable. He had seen enough broken relationships to know that emotions could ruin even the strongest people. He'd built his life carefully, with rules and distance, and now one old condition threatened to destroy everything he had protected. For days, Ethan tried to find a legal way out. He spoke to lawyers, searched old documents, and even considered buying out the relatives. Nothing worked. The condition was firm. Time was short. He needed a wife, at least on paper. That was when the idea came to him. Cold, practical, and clear. He didn't need love. He needed an agreement. Around the same time, Lily Harper was learning how fast life could fall apart. She had returned to the small town near the ranch with a suitcase, a few saved clothes, and more disappointment than hope. Her past had not been easy, and starting over was harder than she had imagined. She took small jobs where she could, helping at a diner, cleaning houses, assisting elderly neighbors. She didn't complain, but believed in standing on her own feet, even when those feet felt tired. She had grown up learning not to rely too much on anyone. Life had taught her that depending on others often came with a price. Still, she dreamed of stability, a simple life, honest work, and peace. Their worlds collided on an ordinary afternoon. Lily was helping an old neighbor deliver supplies near the edge of the coal ranch when one of the truck tires burst. With no signal on her phone and the sun slowly dropping, panic began to creep in. She tried to stay calm, walking along the dirt road, hoping someone would pass. That was when Ethan rode by. He noticed her immediately, not because she was loud or dramatic, but because she stood quietly, brushing dust from her clothes, clearly trying not to worry. Ethan stopped his horse and asked if she needed help. His voice was firm but not unkind. Lily explained the situation. Ethan didn't ask many questions. He hitched his horse and helped tow the truck back toward the main road. They spoke only a little during the ride, but something about her calm nature caught his attention. Before they parted ways, Ethan thanked her for staying composed and wished her well. Lily thanked him and thought nothing more of it. To her, he was just another kind stranger. But Ethan couldn't forget her. Over the next few days, her face returned to his mind again and again. She seemed honest, steady, and most importantly, unattached to his world. She wasn't impressed by wealth or status. That was rare. After much thought, Ethan made a decision. He asked around town and learned her name, her situation, and where she worked. He knew approaching her would be awkward, maybe even offensive, but time was running out. When he walked into the diner where Lily worked, she recognized him immediately. She smiled politely, surprised to see him there. Ethan ordered coffee and waited until her shift slowed. Then he asked if they could talk somewhere quiet. They sat across from each other in a small booth near the window. Ethan didn't waste time. He explained his situation clearly, without emotion. The inheritance condition. The deadline. The need for a wife. Only in name. Lily stared at him, unsure if she had heard correctly. She thought it was a joke, then realized it wasn't. She laughed softly, not because it was funny, but because it was unreal. Ethan continued, calm and serious. He offered financial support, a place to live, and complete respect for her independence. There would be rules. Clear boundaries, no pretending behind closed doors, no physical closeness, no emotional expectations, just an agreement to appear married in public for a limited time. Part of her wanted to walk away immediately. The idea felt strange, even risky, But another part of her saw the opportunity, stability, safety, and a chance to breathe without worrying about tomorrow. She asked questions, many questions. What would happen after? What about her freedom? What if people judged her? Ethan answered honestly. The marriage would end once the condition was fulfilled. She could leave any time if she felt uncomfortable. He promised transparency and fairness. Lily asked for time to think. That night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling of the small room she rented. Her life had been full of hard choices, and this was the hardest yet. She didn't trust easily, but something about Ethan's honesty stood out. He hadn't tried to charm her or pressure her. He had treated it like a business deal, but with respect. By morning, she had decided. When Lily met Ethan again, she looked him straight in the eyes and agreed. On one condition. She would not lose herself in the process. Her dignity, her choices, and her voice would remain her own. Ethan agreed without hesitation. They shook hands, sealing a deal that neither of them fully understood yet. What started as a practical solution quietly marked the beginning of a story that would test every rule Ethan had ever made and challenge everything Lily believed about control, trust, and pretending. The next few days moved faster than Lily expected. Papers were prepared, simple and clear. Nothing fancy, nothing hidden. It was a legal agreement more than a romantic promise. Lily read every line carefully before signing. Ethan respected that. He did not rush her, did not stand over her shoulder. When everything was done, the deal felt real, heavy, and slightly unreal at the same time. Lily moved into the ranch at the end of the week. The Cole ranch was larger than she imagined. Wide-open fields stretched as far as the eye could see. Wooden fences lined the land neatly, and the main house stood strong and quiet, carrying years of history in its walls. It was not flashy, but it was solid, like Ethan himself. Ethan showed her around personally. He explained which rooms were used, which were private, and which were shared. Lily was given her own bedroom on the opposite side of the house. It was simple but comfortable, with a large window that looked out over the fields. Ethan made it clear that this was her space, and he would not enter without permission. From the very beginning, Ethan repeated the rules. They would act like a married couple in public. At home, they would respect each other's space. No personal questions unless invited. No emotional pressure. And the most important rule of all, no physical closeness. No holding hands unless necessary in public. No touching beyond what was required to keep the story believable. Lily listened and agreed. She understood the importance of boundaries. In fact, the rules made her feel safer. She reminded herself that this was temporary. A role. Nothing more. A welcome dinner was held by Ethan's aunt, a woman who lived nearby and took a strong interest in family matters. The entire town seemed curious about Ethan's sudden marriage. People smiled, whispered, and watched closely. Lily wore a simple dress and kept her posture calm. Ethan introduced her as his wife, his voice steady. He placed a polite hand on her back when people were watching, careful and controlled. Lily played her part well, smiling, speaking kindly, and answering questions without revealing too much. To everyone else, they looked natural, comfortable, like a couple who had been married for years, but inside both of them were tense. Ethan noticed how quickly Lily adapted. She did not overact or appear nervous. She listened more than she spoke. She treated people with respect. Even when they asked uncomfortable questions, it impressed him. Lily, on the other hand, noticed the weight Ethan carried. She saw how people looked at him with expectations, how he carried responsibility in his silence. He was not cold, just careful. When they returned home that night, they barely spoke. Not out of anger, but exhaustion. Pretending took more energy than either of them expected. As days passed, they slowly settled into a routine. Mornings were quiet. Ethan woke early to handle ranch work. Lily often woke to the sound of boots on the floor and the door closing softly. She helped around the house, cooked simple meals, and sometimes assisted with paperwork when Ethan allowed it. He was surprised by how capable she was. Evenings were calm. They often ate dinner together at the long wooden table, sitting across from each other. Conversation stayed safe, weather, work, plans for the next day. Nothing personal. Nothing deep. Yet, small moments began to add up. Lily noticed Ethan always made sure she had everything she needed. If she mentioned something once, it appeared the next day. Extra blankets, a better chair for reading. Her favorite tea. He never made a show of it, never mentioned it. Ethan noticed Lily's kindness toward the ranch workers. She learned their names, listened to their stories, and treated everyone equally. He brought a warmth to the house that had been missing for years. The rules were still there, unbroken, but the space between them felt less empty. One afternoon, a sudden storm hit the area. Heavy rain poured down, and the power went out across the ranch. Lily felt uneasy in the darkness. She sat in the living room, listening to the rain and trying to stay calm. Ethan entered the room with a lantern. He paused when he saw her sitting there, arms wrapped around herself. For a moment, instinct told him to offer comfort. Then he remembered the rule. He placed the lantern on the table and asked if she was okay. Lily nodded, a little embarrassed. She admitted she was not used to such strong storms. Ethan sat across from her, keeping distance, and spoke quietly until the rain softened. He told her stories about the ranch, about storms he had faced as a child. His voice was steady, grounding. Lily felt calmer. She realized that comfort did not always come from touch. Sometimes presence was enough. The next day, rumors started. People in town began talking about how perfect Ethan and Lily seemed together. Some said Ethan looked happier. Others said Lily had changed the house. The attention made Lily uncomfortable. She worried that the lie was growing bigger than they could control. That evening, she spoke to Ethan about it. She expressed her concern clearly, without accusation. Ethan listened carefully. He admitted he had not expected things to spread so quickly. They agreed to be cautious, more careful. The deal had to remain just that, a deal. But even as they said the words, both felt the quiet shift between them. Ethan found himself noticing things he had promised not to notice. The way Lily hummed softly while cooking. The way she looked out at the fields in the early morning light. The patience she showed, even when things were difficult. Lily found herself wondering about Ethan's past, why he avoided closeness, what had made him build such strong walls. She did not ask, but the curiosity stayed. One night, while preparing for bed, Lily realized something that unsettled her. She no longer felt like a guest in the house. It felt like home. That realization scared her. Ethan felt something similar. The house no longer felt empty at the end of the day. But that comfort came with danger. He reminded himself why the rule existed. Feelings complicated things. Feelings led to loss, so he held on to the rule tighter. What neither of them realized yet was that pretending day after day had its own power. And slowly, without breaking a single rule, the line between acting and reality was beginning to blur. Ethan had warned Lily in the morning that his extended family would be visiting the ranch. It was not planned, and that alone made him tense. His relatives were not cruel people, but they were observant. They noticed details. They asked questions that felt harmless on the surface but carried hidden meaning underneath. Lily listened carefully as Ethan explained who was coming and what they were like. His voice was calm, but his movements were sharper than usual. For the first time since she moved in, she saw a crack in his controlled nature. "I'll handle it," Lily said gently. "Just tell me what you need." Then he nodded. "Just be yourself. That's enough." The guests arrived in the afternoon. Cars lined the long driveway and voices filled the air. Lily stood beside Ethan, welcoming everyone with a warm smile. She remembered names, offered drinks, and made sure no one felt ignored. She moved through the house like she belonged there. At first, Ethan stayed close, following the rules they had set. His hand rested lightly at Lily's back when needed, nothing more. But as the afternoon went on, he noticed something that surprised him. Lily wasn't pretending anymore. She spoke honestly. She laughed naturally. When someone made a sharp comment about the ranch or Ethan's lifestyle, Lily responded calmly, defending him without anger or drama. She did it with grace, as if it came from a place deeper than obligation. One relative questioned Ethan's work habits, suggesting he spent too much time alone and too little time enjoying life. Before Ethan could answer, Lily stepped in. "He carries more responsibility than most people realize," she said softly but clearly, "and he does it without complaining. That's something to respect." The room went quiet. Ethan felt something shift inside him. No one had spoken about him that way in years. Not with understanding, not with pride. As the visit ended and the guests left, the house fell silent again. The sun was setting, painting the fields in warm light. Lily stood by the window, arms folded loosely, looking tired but peaceful. Ethan stood a few steps behind her. He wanted to say thank you, but the words felt too small. His chest felt tight, unfamiliar. "You didn't have to do that," he finally said. Lily turned to face him. "Yes, I did. They were being unfair." "This was supposed to be an act," Ethan said, more to himself than to her. Lily's expression softened. "Maybe for you, but respect shouldn't be an act." The words hung between them. For a moment neither spoke. The air felt heavier, charged with something neither of them had planned. Ethan took a step forward, then stopped. The rule echoed loudly in his mind. No closeness, no crossing lines. "I'm going to make some tea," Lily said quietly, sensing the tension. She turned away, giving him space. That night, sleep did not come easily for either of them. Ethan lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment over and over. Lily's voice, her honesty, the way she had stood up for him without hesitation. He told himself it meant nothing. Gratitude could feel intense, comfort could feel warm. That didn't mean it was dangerous. Lily in her room felt equally unsettled. She hadn't planned to speak up the way she did. It had come naturally, instinctively. That realization scared her. She reminded herself that she was only there because of the deal, that she should not let emotions grow where they didn't belong. The next few days were strange. They were polite, careful, almost distant. Conversations stayed short. Meals were quiet. It felt like both were walking around an invisible line, afraid of stepping too close. Then came the town festival. Ethan had no choice but to attend. His presence was expected, and now that he was married, Lily had to go with him. The event was public, crowded, and full of eyes. They agreed to stick close and follow the rules carefully. Music filled the air, and people greeted them warmly. Some complimented Lily. Others teased Ethan about settling down. Lily handled it well, smiling and redirecting conversations. Ethan stayed beside her, playing his role. As the evening grew darker, a slow song began to play. Couples moved to the open space, swaying gently. Lily felt a mix of emotions. She knew this moment would be expected of them. Ethan hesitated. Dancing had not been discussed. Before he could speak, someone called out, "Come on, Ethan, dance with your wife." All eyes turned toward them. Ethan took a breath. This was public. Necessary. He held out his hand. Lily placed her hand in his. They stood at a respectful distance, moving slowly to the music. Ethan's hand rested lightly at her side, careful, controlled. Lily kept her other hand on his shoulder, equally careful. But something about the closeness broke through the walls they had built. They could feel each other's presence clearly now. The warmth, the steady breathing, the quiet connection that pretending could not fully hide. Ethan looked down at Lily. "Oh." She looked up at him. For a moment, the crowd faded. The music softened. Everything else disappeared. It happened without planning, without thought. Ethan leaned in slightly. Lily didn't move away. Their lips touched, briefly, gently, and then it was over. The world rushed back in. Ethan pulled away immediately, his expression filled with shock and regret. He stepped back as if burned. "That was a mistake," he said, his voice tight. Lily stood frozen. Her heart raced, not from fear, but from realization. She nodded slowly, even though the word mistake felt heavy. "Yes," she said quietly. They did not speak again that night. The ride home was silent. The house felt colder than usual. Lily went straight to her room. Ethan stayed in the living room, staring into the dark. The rule had been broken. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough to change everything. Ethan felt angry with himself. He had built that rule to protect both of them, to keep things simple. And in one unguarded moment, it had slipped through his fingers. Lily lay awake, staring at the wall. The kiss had been small, but the feeling it left behind was not. She realized something she had been avoiding for weeks. She cared, and that scared her more than the deal ever had. By morning, everything looked the same on the surface. The ranch, the routine, the roles. But underneath, nothing was the same. They spoke politely, carefully, like strangers who shared a secret neither knew how to face. The kiss had not been discussed, but it was present in every glance, every pause, every unspoken word. Both of them understood one truth now. The line had been crossed. The days after the kiss felt heavy, as if the air inside the house had changed. Nothing was said about what happened, but everything was different. Simple things now felt complicated. Silence stretched longer than before, and when their eyes met, both looked away too quickly. Ethan buried himself in work. He woke before sunrise and stayed out until the sky turned dark. He rode farther than usual, took on extra tasks, and avoided the house whenever he could. Work had always been his shield, and now he needed it more than ever. He told himself the kiss meant nothing. It was a mistake caused by pressure and public expectation. That was all. But no matter how busy he stayed, Lily's presence followed him. Her voice, her calm strength, the way she had looked at him in that moment, not pretending, not acting. He tried to push the memory away, but it returned every time he slowed down. Lily noticed the distance immediately. She kept to her routine, but her heart felt restless. The house that once felt warm now felt uncertain. She questioned herself constantly. Had she imagined the meaning behind the kiss? Had she crossed a line that was never meant to be crossed? She reminded herself that Ethan had been clear from the beginning. The rule existed for a reason. Still, the way he avoided her hurt more than she expected. One evening, Lily decided she couldn't keep pretending nothing had changed. She found Ethan in the study, reviewing papers. He looked tired, his shoulders tense. She stood in the doorway for a moment, gathering courage. "We need to talk," she said softly. Ethan looked up. His expression tightened, but he nodded. "Okay." But her voice carried honesty. "I don't regret agreeing to this arrangement," she said. "But pretending that nothing happened isn't working." Ethan stayed silent, listening. "That moment," Lily continued, choosing her words carefully, "it didn't feel fake to me. And if it didn't mean anything to you, I need to understand that." Ethan closed the folder in front of him and leaned back. His jaw tightened. "It meant something," he admitted quietly. "But that's the problem." The word surprised them both. "I made that rule because I know myself. When feelings get involved, things fall apart. I've seen it. I've lived it." Lily listened, her heart steady but heavy. "You never told me why." "I didn't plan to," Ethan replied. "Because the past doesn't change anything." "But it explains things," Lily said gently. For a long moment, Ethan said nothing. Then, finally, he spoke. He told her about a relationship from years ago. How he had trusted deeply, planned a future, and believed in something he thought was solid. When it ended suddenly, it left him questioning his judgment, his strength, and his ability to protect what mattered. He didn't go into painful detail, but the weight of it was clear. "I learned that control was safer," he said. "Rules don't leave you. Land doesn't betray you. Feelings do." Lily felt a deep understanding settle in her chest. She didn't interrupt. She didn't try to fix it. She simply listened. "I'm not asking you to change," she said after a while. "I just need to know where we stand." Ethan met her eyes. "We stand where we agreed. Since when the deal ends..." The words were firm, but his eyes held conflict. Lily nodded slowly. "Then we should keep things clear." From that night on, they tried to reset. They returned to the rules, stricter than before. They spoke only when necessary. Public appearances were handled carefully. At home, they stayed in separate spaces. The kiss was never mentioned again. But pretending to go backward was harder than moving forward. The town continued to watch them closely. People commented on how busy Ethan had become. Some noticed Lily seemed quieter. Rumors started, soft but persistent. Questions followed. One afternoon, Lily overheard two women in town talking about her. They questioned her intentions, her place on the ranch, and whether she truly belonged there. The words were not loud, but they were sharp. Lily didn't respond. She walked away calmly, but the weight followed her home. That evening, Ethan noticed something was wrong. Lily was quieter than usual, her smile forced. He wanted to ask, but hesitated. Asking meant caring, and caring meant risk. Later that night, a letter arrived. It was from one of the relatives mentioned in the will. The tone was polite but firm. The letter suggested that certain people were questioning the legitimacy of Ethan's marriage. It hinted at legal reviews and possible challenges. Ethan felt anger rise. He knew exactly what this meant. The deal that was supposed to protect the ranch was now under threat because of public doubt. He found Lily in the kitchen, standing by the counter. "They're questioning us," he said bluntly, handing her the letter. Lily read it carefully. Her expression remained calm, but inside something broke. "This was never supposed to hurt you," she said quietly. "I know," Ethan replied, "and that's why we need to fix this." They talked long into the night, not about feelings, but about strategy, appearances, timing, what needed to be done to protect the agreement. But beneath every practical decision was an unspoken truth. The line between pretending and reality was now fragile. The next family gathering was unavoidable. This time, Lily prepared herself fully. She dressed carefully, spoke confidently, and stood beside Ethan with steady strength. When questions arose, she answered clearly. When doubts were hinted at, she addressed them calmly. She didn't argue or defend too strongly. She simply existed with confidence. Ethan watched her and felt something shift again. Not fear, not control, respect. Deep, undeniable respect. That night, after everyone left, Ethan stood alone outside, staring at the land he had fought so hard to protect. For the first time, he wondered what he was really protecting it from. Inside the house, Lily packed a small bag. She wasn't leaving yet, but she needed to be ready. The emotional cost was growing, and she refused to lose herself for the sake of a role. She had promised herself that much. When Ethan came inside and saw the bag, his chest tightened. "Are you going somewhere?" he asked. "Not tonight," Lily replied honestly. "But I won't stay where I'm only convenient." Ethan nodded slowly. He understood. That night, neither slept much. Both realized that the truth could not stay buried forever. The deal was cracking. The rules were failing. And no matter how hard Ethan tried to hold on to control, the biggest risk was no longer losing the ranch. The morning after that long, sleepless night felt unusually quiet. The ranch looked the same as always, but something inside Ethan had shifted. For the first time in years, the land did not calm him. The fields were wide and strong, yet his thoughts felt trapped. He watched Lily from a distance that morning. She moved through the house calmly, packing away small things, cleaning the kitchen, preparing breakfast as usual. Nothing in her actions suggested anger or drama. That, more than anything, made Ethan uneasy. Lily was not someone who created noise when she was hurting. She became quiet, thoughtful, and prepared. Ethan realized then that this situation was no longer under his control. Later that day, Ethan received another call from the lawyer. The family challenge was growing. Relatives were pushing for proof, questioning timelines, looking for weak points. The lawyer's voice was careful but honest. "They're watching closely," he said. "If this looks like an arrangement instead of a real marriage, things could get complicated." Ethan ended the call and sat alone for a long time. All his life he had believed rules were strength, boundaries were safety, control meant protection. But now those same rules were tearing apart the one thing that had brought life back into his home. That evening, Ethan made a decision he had been avoiding. He knocked on Lily's door. She opened it slowly, surprised. She looked tired but composed. "Is something wrong?" she asked. "Yes," Ethan said quietly. "And I need to say it properly this time." They sat in the living room, the same place where rules had once been explained so clearly. The lantern on the table was off, but the soft light from outside filled the room. "I've spent years believing that keeping distance would keep me safe," Ethan began. "I thought if I never let anyone get close, nothing could break. But the truth is," he continued, "distance didn't protect me. It just kept me alone." He looked at her, really looked at her. "You didn't change this house by pretending. You changed it by being real. And I tried to control that because I was afraid." Lily's eyes softened, but she stayed quiet. "I broke my own rule," Ethan said. "Not because of pressure, not because of pretending, but because, in that moment, I felt something real. And instead of facing it, I pushed you away." Lily took a slow breath. "I never wanted to be something convenient," she said. "I agreed to help, not to disappear inside someone else's fear." "You didn't," Ethan replied firmly. "I did." Silence followed, but it was different now. It wasn't heavy. It was honest. "I don't know what the future looks like," Ethan said. "But I know this. I don't want you here because of a deal. And I don't want you to stay if I can't offer you respect and truth." Lily felt emotion rise, but she kept her voice steady. "What are you offering now?" Ethan stood up, nervous in a way he had never been before. "A choice, not an agreement. Not a rule. A choice for both of us." He continued, "If you want to leave when this is over, I'll understand. If you want to stay and see where this goes, without pretending, I'm willing to risk it." Lily stood as well. For a long moment she searched his face. She saw fear, honesty, and something new, courage. "I won't promise anything blindly," she said, "but I won't run from something real either." That night, nothing dramatic happened. No grand gestures, no sudden changes, but something important had shifted. For the first time, they were not hiding behind rules. Over the next few weeks, they faced everything together. They attended family meetings side by side, not acting, not forcing closeness, just being honest. Lily spoke when she needed to. Ethan stopped avoiding questions. They didn't try to prove anything. They simply existed with quiet confidence. People noticed. The whispers faded. The tension softened. The challenges slowly lost strength. The lawyer confirmed that the inheritance conditions were satisfied, not just legally, but convincingly. But by then, the ranch was no longer the center of Ethan's decision. One afternoon, Lily sat on the porch, watching the sun dip low. Ethan joined her, sitting close, not touching, but no longer afraid of the space between them. "I've been thinking," Lily said, "about what happens next." Ethan nodded. "Me too." I won't stay just because things are easier here now, she said honestly. I need to know that if I stay, it's because we're choosing each other every day. Ethan smiled softly. That's all I want too. Weeks passed and life settled into something new. Not perfect, not planned, but real. Lily brought her ideas into the ranch, helping with community events, building connections Ethan had avoided for years. Ethan learned to speak instead of withdraw, to trust instead of control. One evening, as they walked the land together, Ethan stopped near the fence line. This place mattered so much to me, he said. I thought losing it would mean losing everything. And now I know it's only meaningful because of who I share it with. This time, when Ethan leaned in, there was no rule stopping him. The kiss was gentle, not rushed, not filled with fear. It wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. Months later, there was no announcement, no big event, just a quiet morning where Lily didn't pack a bag. She unpacked instead. The marriage that began as pretending ended as something stronger than a contract, not because of wealth, not because of pressure, but because two people chose honesty over fear.